A reading from the Song of Songs. My lover speaks. He says to me, "Arise, my beloved, my dove, my beautiful one, and come. Let me see you. Let me hear your voice. For your voice is sweet, and you are lovely." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I recently read that one of the side effects of sin is loneliness. A Dominican priest writes, "The sense of sin brings with it a feeling of loneliness when the first pleasurable excitement has worn off." Pope Benedict, years ago, went on to say that such a loneliness can reach a point of being hell for a sinner. Now, I don't think I ever thought about loneliness as being a consequence of my sin. Have you? Oh, I'm conscious as you are of the guilt I feel when I've done something wrong, and of the shame I experience, which is even worse, after I have done or said something that is very selfish or unkind. But the more I think about it, I can recall specific sins that I have committed where one of the feelings I have had is loneliness. Because suddenly that sin puts me in a frame of mind that has created a breach in my relationship with God and with others, which is what sin does, separating me, especially from God, the one who loves me the most. And that separation is really coming from me. And it causes me to not hear the voice of the one who loves me and speaks to me in the Song of Songs, saying, "Come, let me hear your voice. Let me see your face again, for you are beautiful." My sin makes me feel isolated and alone, and even gives me the feeling that I don't belong. So no doubt about it, I was lonely. In our novena prayers every week, we always ask Mary for a number of graces. We ask her to help us in time of temptation, but most especially to be there for us during those times we sin. And I realize now that because we need her to bring us to Christ, because we have isolated ourselves. When I think about it, I believe that Mary not only can give us the grace to overcome our temptations, but she can save us from that loneliness that comes after we sin. She is there for us no matter how much we mess up or go astray. We're not alone. We're just not alone. She wants us to know to whom we belong. And she wants to help us to remember that promise that Jesus made to his disciples, "I will not leave you orphans." And that promise truly finds its fulfillment in Mary. Now you may ask, how exactly does Mary help to dispel our loneliness? Well, if you look at the Catechism, when they speak about the saints, it teaches that what the saints can do for us is amazing, because they're very attentive to our feelings, so that when we cry out to them, they apply the merits of their own holy lives to our petitions, just as the shedding of Christ's blood is said to bring pardon for us. I have a simple example which I think helps you and I to understand how this all works. Now, you have to be someone who lived and grew up in the 1950s. I'm sorry. Do you remember the days when there were those things called green stamps? Well, just to remind you, although I'm sure you don't need reminding, green stamps were bonuses given to you by the supermarket when you brought your groceries. And they were meant to be exchanged for merchandise of all sorts. So you would collect all these green stamps and then you would paste them into a book. But as we all know, you had to have lots of books to get anything worthwhile or really good. So my mother came up with this idea that she would get all her neighbors to join with her, and they would pool their books together and turn them in as one collection in order to get the one really good gift. And over a period of time, everyone at some point would get one of those gifts. Now, when my mother went in to turn the books in, this large stack of books which were compiled by all the neighbors, the clerk never said to her, "Hey, wait, Mrs. Dabney, what's going on here? These can't all be your green stamp books. Some belong to someone else." That never happened. The clerk just counted the total number of books, and if the amount was correct, out came the big gift from the magic green stamp room. Well, Mary does something similar for us. To our poor prayers, she applies her holy merits, so that when God receives our prayers, our petitions, He doesn't question or object to what may be lacking in us, but rather He rejoices in the magnitude of Mary's love, who has joined our prayer, or her prayer, with ours. So there is this wonderful exchange between Mary and God. The holiness of Mary profits us. Now, just as an aside, and I love this, the name of the place where you turn in your green stamp books, believe it or not, was called the Redemption Center. Truly, the icon of our Mother Perpetual Help is our place of redemption. It's where we experience the bountifulness of God's grace. So the attentiveness and sincerity that Mary shows us, it helps to set our hearts aflame with a love that has the power and the grace to help to dissipate and ultimately dispel our loneliness. Through her intercession, Mary gives us what we need, and she helps to expel that curse of loneliness, which would otherwise be our lot. Mary, our Mother of Perpetual Help, you know that we will never cease asking you to help us, particularly in those times of temptation and when we sin. But today, we also want to thank you for your generous care and for all those times that you rescued us from our loneliness.